Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our summer season coaches meeting. Hope everybody's enjoying their last day of warm weather before we get crazy random May snowstorm tomorrow. At least here on the Front Range. I'm going to give it a couple minutes and let some of our later attendees join. We'll continue to let them in, and we'll start here momentarily. Just give it another couple minutes. Good to see some familiar faces again. It's been almost a year since I've seen some of you guys. Okay. All right. Well, we're just past 6:30, so we will get started. Everybody, welcome to our 2022 summer season coaches meeting. So we are, for those of you who are new to this call, this is our time to share everything that we're going to be doing in the upcoming season. So ways that you as coaches can prepare, share important information about season registration, about the upcoming season, competition dates, reminders around paperwork, really good refresher on rules and entry forms and how we're going to do all of that. So this is a really important call for you guys to attend, and we will be recording this, and you would have gotten that announcement at the beginning of this call, but please do share this call with any of your coaches who may be supporting your teams, or if you're a program coordinator and have head coaches for your respective sports, please do share that with them as well. We want to make sure that as many people who need to know this information are receiving it. So let's dive into it. Going to start off with a brief agenda. So this is general expectations of what we're going to cover in today's call. So we'll start off with some staff introductions, cover some season highlights, talk about COVID paperwork, everyone's favorite stuff, and then more fun in athlete applications, Class A paperwork updates. Talk about season registration and how that works with your respective teams. One second, and then we're going to talk about season preparation and expectations, calendar and timeline, some sports specific updates, specifically around rules and entry forms and how you can go about that to make sure that your team's properly prepared for the upcoming competition season. And then we're going to close with some information about our athlete leadership, fitness captains, and healthy athlete programs. So we'll move on, and I'm going to introduce the team. So we'll start off, and I would like to welcome our CEO, Megan Scremin, to the call. Megan, if you want to, now would be a good opportunity to share a few words with the group.
Sure. I just want to say hi. Sorry, this is always a funny time of day in my office. So I'll zip over here. Just want to say hi. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for all your support as coaches. If you know of anyone who is still interested in getting involved, please, please, please. We want as many people to get involved as possible. It's really wonderful to see so many of you on here. Thank you as always for your flexibility. We are continually trying to make the process as easy as possible for you, but know with that comes a big ask of flexibility always. So just thank you very much for that. And if you ever need anything, of course, the entire team, which Adrian will go through are here, but please always reach out to me if you need anything at all. I'm excited to get through spring and then summer. Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks, Meg. So introducing the rest of the team, I'll just run through the group who's joining us on the call today. We got Shaka Sutton, our Chief Outreach Officer and VP of Sports. Susan Fogg, who you're going to hear from later on this call, our Senior Director of Sports and Competition. I'm actually going to take a quick pause and introduce our newest member of the team, Kara Waldmeier. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Kara has joined our team as our sports and competition coordinator. So she'll be working with Susan, Corey, and Kyle. Kara, I believe you're on this call. If you're open to it, would love to give you the opportunity to share a few words with the group.
Just want to say welcome, everybody, and thanks for letting me be a part of the team. I know how it is to be a coach, so I'm excited to talk with you all and be a part of the team as well. So thanks.
Thanks, Kara. We've been throwing Kara into the fire, as Soko does. She has the great opportunity to lead state gymnastics this weekend on her first week on the job. So really excited to have Kara as part of the team. Kyle Visser, our sport and competition assistant. Maddie Zawacki's on the call. She's our volunteers and coach development manager. Jenna Tweet is our senior inclusive health manager. You'll be hearing from her at the end of the call on some healthy athletes activities. Stephanie Levine is our athlete leadership manager. Mandy DeWitt is our senior director of young athletes. Ashton Anderson is our young athletes coordinator. Neither of them are able to join us today, but we'll share a little bit about young athletes and that program and how your teams might be able to engage with them too. But those will be the primary points of contact for both of those programs. Also want to pause here and introduce our Southeast Regional Manager, Corey Panetti. He was joined us for the spring season call. That was his a couple days before he actually started with us. But some of you who are Southeast coaches may be meeting him for the first time. So I want to give Corey an opportunity to say hello. Corey?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm super excited to get my first full season with summer. It's already been kind of a lot of fun. And like Adrian said, thrown in the fire, but it's all been awesome. I look forward to meeting all of my coaches in the Southeast and everybody else, hopefully at States. If you have any questions, just give me a call or shoot me an email.
Adrian, can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Corey has been such a wonderful addition, as has, everyone on the team. And I think you'll notice a focus as we've brought on new team members on placing a priority on people who have past experience as a coach. So I think it's really just important to note on this coaches call that Kara has been a coach, Corey has been a coach, Michelle has been a coach, Elizabeth worked with this population before. And so just wanted to make note that that's really been an emphasis and a priority that we've placed in trying to make sure that we're serving you, our coaches, as best as we possibly can. And of course, that comes from having people that know what it's like to be a coach. So just wanted to add that.
It's great. Thanks for highlighting that. Now, rounding out the group, we got Michelle Peters, who most of you already know, our Western Regional Manager, Elizabeth Aslin, our Northeast Regional Manager, and then me, our Senior Director of Regional Services and the Denver region. We're going to move on, talk about some summer season stuff. Let's dive into it. So we've been working for a while to get back here. This will be our first full summer back, and we're really excited to offer all our sports in full again, with bocce, cycling, golf, softball, and tennis. Masks are optional outdoors. We are still requiring them indoors for participation. We are hoping that you guys will continue to abide by our masking policy. Good news though, we do not have any team size limits outside of the roster parameters for each of the sport specific stuff. So no team size limits related to any of the COVID related stuff. Paperwork that's still required, we still require all the same paperwork as we did last year. So the communicable disease form, the COVID code of conduct, and the sign-in sheets that we'll cover here in a little bit are all still required. And we are having state summer classics. We'll share a little bit more here towards the tail end of the call. Required paperwork, I'm gonna share this now. This is your COVID paperwork that we have been following along and abiding by as required by Special Olympics International. These are our COVID participant risk forms, form and code of conduct, our communicable disease waiver, and our team sign-in sheets. The participant risk form, the code of conduct, and the communicable disease form only need to be signed the one time by a person on the first day of practice. Once those are all collected, you can then send those to your regional manager. The team sign-in sheet will need to be completed at each practice. This is important. This is just the way we monitor our contact tracing. So in the event there is an exposure at practice, we want to know who was there and who needs to be notified of that exposure. So we ask that those are completed each practice. You can turn those in on a week-by-week basis or at the end of the season. We do require that the first one be completed at the first practice and turned in after that immediate practice. We'll move on. Talk about athlete applications in the Class A. The athlete application has been updated. And for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to review it of late, we've modified the form and condensed it a bit more, made it a little bit more user-friendly for you as coaches and for our families and athletes who are completing the athlete application. We are fully online on the athlete application. We are no longer accepting any new forms. We have an updated Special Olympics International medical form or physical examination form that is available on our website and can be accessed and printed off or downloaded there for a doctor to complete. That's the one we are recommending that be utilized at all physical examination appointments. That form then gets uploaded through the online athlete application. We no longer have paper examinations. So if you've utilized that in the past, we no longer accept those. So for anybody who needs additional support in completing the athlete application or is unable to complete it online, we do have a help desk available that can provide over-the-counter support, either electronically by email or by phone, and complete the athlete application on an individual's behalf if they are not able to do it themselves. So we do have resources available, knowing that there are some technological barriers for some, and we want to be able to support as many as or everybody in completing the athlete application. So again, just reinforcing, if you have physical, like actual physical copies of the athlete application from prior seasons, please discard those. We will no longer accept those. We hope that nobody does complete those because we will have to reject them and they will have to start over. Pause here. Any questions on the athlete application or Class A? Team, was there anything I should add? I think I got a question. No questions? Great. We will move on. That was great. Okay. Pre-competition paperwork. So we're going to cover a couple things that we have implemented in recent seasons that is going to help provide you guys some more upfront support and communicating some more information about athlete applications in a timely manner to you as coaches and then to also families far in advance of our competition window, so leading into the season, so that everybody has this information about when their athlete application Class A's will expire with plenty of time in order to be able to collect that prior to the competition. So I'm going to kick it over to Elizabeth, who is going to share a little bit about each of these three opportunities that we have available now. Elizabeth?
Awesome. So I think you need to stop sharing for me.
Yep.
Let's pull it up. So I'm just going to go over an example of first, wanted to go over the emails that are sent to athletes after they complete their seasonal registration or they're added to the roster manually by a coach. And then we place them on the team before the season. So this is kind of their first introduction to the team or reminder about the team, connecting them with their coaches, letting them know about practice information. So it goes over the requirements for athlete applications, the links, practice information, and then we also include a team roster on that email. So it goes to all the families and the coach is copied on there. So this is kind of your first exposure officially to your roster and the athlete application in Class A expirations here. So this is a good one to reference from the beginning of the season. And then you'll also have access to that shared roster. For those of you that haven't been coaching in seasons before the summer, this will be your first time seeing it, but it's going to be a shared roster that your regional manager as well as yourself are able to access and kind of update it as the roster changes, ebbs and flows throughout the season. Request from your regional manager to look up an athlete application expiration date or a Class A to see what we have on file. So like Adrian said, that's going to be replacing that initial paperwork report pull that we used to do at the beginning of the season, because those pulls were usually based on past competitions. And since it's kind of been slow to get back into things, rosters have changed a lot. They don't necessarily reflect the true roster that you're going to have in the coming season. So we're using these shared rosters as a live version of who has registered through seasonal registration, as well as who has been placed as new athletes on your roster, and people that you add manually that might not be able to register themselves or forgot to register by the deadline, all those fun things. So this spot in the intro email, when we introduce families to their coaches and the team, that's going to be a spot. Shared roster is going to be a spot. And then, as Adrian mentioned, we also send out an expired athlete application and Class A report for each competition. Once we receive all entry forms from teams, we'll enter it into our games management system. And then that is how we spit out the report with this information. So we'll cover this later in the call too, but it is really important to get your entry forms in time so that we can enter it into the system and then spit out this report. They happen together. So this is just an example of an email that we sent recently for the Front Range soccer competition that's coming up. So I'll show you the actual document in a second here, but basically we attached the PDF report based on the rosters that you submit and the people that have expired or missing paperwork, and paperwork meaning Class A's and athlete applications. We've switched it up a little bit from past years, where instead of sharing the entire roster with people that don't have expired and have expired paperwork on the report is just going to see people that have missing or expired paperwork. So that's basically what this report or this email is saying. And then one other thing to note is that some reports will have yellow highlights on the date. And that's just telling you that they're good for regionals, but they're going to be expired by the time the state competition comes up. So it's probably good to start notifying them now so that it doesn't become an issue for state. Just a note, if you don't see your team on this list, that just means that there's no one that has expired paperwork and you're good to go and you don't have any action to take there. We include the athlete application links, the physical exam form. We also have the form in Spanish now, which will help a lot of our families as well. And then that help desk link that Adrian mentioned before, where you can contact that help desk for any technical support. If you're having trouble uploading something or having trouble filling out a form, that's a great place to go. And then for Class A, that's going to be for coaches and unified partners. You're going to fill out the Class A, and then anybody over the age of 18 will also need to complete that background check. Both the athlete application and Class A are good for 3 years. So hopefully if we can get everything taken care of this season for everybody that's expired or new, then you won't have to worry about those people again for another 3 years. And then this is the report. It's broken up. Each page has a team. So you'll see your delegation or team, last name, first name, their role, birthday. Sometimes we're missing a birthday, and that's something that we need from you, and that'll be highlighted in probably a blue color. And then if it's missing, it'll be blank and red. If it's expired, it'll have the expiration date and then the red highlighted color. So you'll just toggle through. It'll be alphabetical by your team name. And then, so this blue one is a good example of somebody who we are missing this birthday. The birthday is really important. We'll also cover this a little later in the call, I believe. The birthday is important because we have a lot of people in our database. And if somebody has a similar name or the exact same name, we want to make sure that we're entering the right person into that roster so that we can pull the correct expiration date off of there. And then we can also assign the correct score or award to them in the system afterwards as well. So I know it seems super detailed and like, why do we need your birthday? It just helps us organize it on the back end, and then we don't have to bug you about it again. So Adrian or anyone else from the team have anything to add to this?
The one thing I do want to really emphasize, and you would have seen it in the email that Elizabeth shared, but starting this season in spring, we are fully enforcing that anybody with expired or missing athlete applications or Class A's are not allowed to participate at competitions. We had a couple teams that had some athletes arrive at competitions this past spring, and we unfortunately had to turn them away because they didn't have their paperwork on file with us and weren't current in order to participate in that regional competition or that state competition. So really want to enforce it and emphasize that now at the get-go going into the season, that this is something that we are going to really be looking at very closely. And we're trying to provide you as much information as early as possible to both you as coaches and the families and athletes who are participating in the season, so that everybody has the information with plenty of advance notice in order to be able to update their athlete applications and Class A's, and then be able to be current and able to participate at our competition. So really just want to reiterate that and emphasize that portion of it.
And Megan, I know you've emphasized this in another coach's call, but do you want to just maybe explain the reasoning behind why we need it on file as well for insurance purposes?
You nailed it, but it's for insurance purposes. We want to make sure that we are able to protect you, the coaches, the athletes, and we can't do that. We can't provide support after if something happens after the fact, if we don't have this on file. That is per Special Olympics International and our insurance. So I know it's a pain in the butt, but like everybody's mentioned, we're really trying to do the best we can to get you as much advanced information as possible. Jenna will go through MedFests, so we're giving opportunity to get that application taken care of. But yeah, that's the reason why. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Great. One other thing that we'll share as well as far as we cover season registration is a welcome email that our families and athletes will also receive prior to the season when we make the introduction to you as coaches with those family members. They will also receive a snapshot of the team roster, who's listed on that report, making sure that they're paired with the people that they want to be paired, their friends or family members, but then also noting their expiration date going into the season. So any individual who has been matched with the team will be notified of their pending expiration going into that season. So they will also be aware go right from the get-go before any of the first practices. So then when you as coaches are reminding them at the first practices, it's not new information for them. So hopefully this will take off a little bit of that burden from you all as coaches in having to do a lot of that, like tracking down with individuals and really trying to chase them to get their paperwork updated prior to a competition. So we're hoping to offload some of that responsibility from you all as well. All right, we'll move on. Want to share a new tool that we have available for you all as coaches. So in the past, in order for you all to keep track of your athlete medicals and like all the relevant information that you need to know about an individual's like health histories and the medications that they take, and having it on hand at practices, that can be a little bit taxing with the amount of information that you need to print off and have available to you. So we created this one pager. That's an optional tool for use for your use. It's not something that we're requiring from you at all. We're not asking for anything for you guys to submit. It's just something that we will provide you. If you do want to use it, you're welcome to do so. But essentially, this one pager will have the opportunity for you to collect the relevant information that you need to have on hand. So the athlete contact information, the emergency contact information, any of their health history, the medications that they need to be taking, a description of their disability. So in the event that there is an emergency at practice and you do need to seek emergency assistance, you do have this one pager available as a quick reference and a snapshot. So this is something that we will share with you all following the call as an attachment to our recap email. And I encourage you guys to use it, but again, not mandatory by any stretch at all, just something that we really want to help alleviate some of that additional responsibility that you guys carry as coaches. Now I want to talk about a couple things around season registration or athlete application and Class A's and entry forms. There's terminologies that are being shared here from the state office that can be a little bit confusing, especially as we've introduced season registration. So I want to clarify what each one of these terms mean. So we'll start off with season registration. Season registration is done seasonally. It's around the specific sport that an individual wants to join for that specific sport season. And it's what will pair them up with the team that they want to reconnect with or try for the first time. They have to register for multiple times if they want to do multiple sports within that season. And it's only good for that one specific season. So once summer ends, they will have to do the same process again for the fall. Athlete applications in Class A, this is your paperwork requirements in order to be eligible for full participation with us across all our sports for 3 years. So this includes like your physical examination form that's conducted by a doctor. This is your waivers and your release forms, all your likeness forms. All that stuff gets completed during the athlete application part. And then for the Class A, it's your background check, it's your concussion trainings, all that stuff too. So again, this covers you across all 3 years, across all our sports, but it's your actual application in order to become eligible across all participation. And then the third piece that's really only applicable to you guys as coaches is the competition entry forms. So you're going to hear us talk about entry forms and what you need to submit as coaches prior to a competition window. So this is reflective of your team roster, including their roles. So like a breakdown if they're an athlete or a partner, their birth dates, and then like this is where we capture scores and times around events that they want to be registered for, and then also what division each individual is, like how we rate them and assess them by level, and then how we rate and division your teams collectively as a unit. And then this information will help us make sure that we appropriately match your team or your individuals with similar or like competition at our regionals and state competitions. Any questions on this before I move on? Outstanding. All right. Now, season registration, this it won't be new to many of you, but I did want to give you a brief overview about this process of what we're implementing, because it's a new thing that we're doing for the first time this season. So season registration was created as after receiving countless amounts of feedback from you guys as coaches, our parents, our athletes, on how we can better support everybody collectively. So trying to capture more information and provide ease of access for people to pair up with their respective sports and teams, and then share more information with you guys as coaches much earlier so that you know who's going to be returning to your team and if there are any new people that are going to be added. As you know, in years past, we would just on a case-by-case basis reach out to you when somebody wanted to join your team, whether that be beginning of the season or mid-season. So we're trying to kind of streamline that process and collect as much information for people who want to join Special Olympics and want to be matched with the team earlier on. So for you guys, this is going to provide you with a full roster of people who expressed interest with us to return to your teams or try your team for the first time based off of information that we collected from you during our coaches registration a couple months ago. So we use that information that you provided us to build out your rosters and then help determine who gets placed on your team based off of location, ability level, sport interest, age group, etc. from there, we are providing you guys with the opportunity to review your rosters earlier. So at this point, you would have all received an email from your regional manager with an opportunity to bookmark your roster and have an opportunity to review people who've already registered with your team so far, and then provide updates as well to us. So in the event that somebody didn't register for your team and know that they should be trying it for this season, now's the opportunity to let us know. We can add them to the roster, or you can notify that individual to please register so that they are paired with your team accordingly. And then also provide us with updated information around like practices, locations, times. If any of that stuff has changed since you initially registered with us, now would be a great time to notify us so that when we are making those initial athlete and family introductions, we're sharing the most accurate information around your team. Now, one thing I do want to emphasize is that registration is not required. We are asking as many people to register with us as possible, but we also are fully aware that there are those technological barriers for many, or many are accustomed to returning your teams as they had in years past, where they show up for the first practice and then they're part of your team, right? So all of that is still available, and we are asking you as coaches to just let us know when somebody's returning your team that may not be listed on your roster. So if Jimmy never registered with us, you don't see him reflected on your roster, you know he's coming to the first practice, let your regional manager know so we can reflect that on your roster accordingly, and make sure that we're providing everybody that same opportunity. The rosters that we shared with you are shared rosters, so they live on a OneDrive, so like on the cloud on the internet, and you have the opportunity for you to go in there as we do as regional managers and make your own edits and additions to those rosters as well. So you can yourself add any individuals who are joining your team, even if they're not reflected on the roster that we originally shared with you. And then continue to monitor these rosters, as this is where we will provide you with any updated information. So if we receive an athlete application in the middle of the season, we will notify you by updating that on your roster. So when you when it comes time for entry forms to be turned in, you'll have a more accurate idea of who needs updated athlete applications or Class A's prior to competition. Couple things to just note on summer registration. So it's still open for athletes and unified partners. It will close on May 31st. So anybody who hasn't registered yet or isn't reflected on your roster at this moment, please encourage them to register so that they can have that done before May 31st. Starting next week, May 25th, we will be making our initial athlete and family team placement announcements. So we'll be sending those introductory emails to athletes and families for them to review the teams that they have been matched with, and then confirm with us if the team makes sense for them, if the practice times and locations work, if they're matched with the same coach that they asked to return with, or the same athletes that they wanted to be paired with, whether it be a sibling or a friend. And then provide us that feedback so we can make that adjustments before we make those final roster announcements, which will then take place during June 1st through the 8th. So over that week, we will be making the formal announcements and making the connections between the individuals who have been matched with your team and then you all as coaches. Again, like I mentioned, please continue to monitor those rosters for athlete application and Class A dates, and then notify any of your regional managers of any updates to your practice information prior to May 25th so that we can update all the families accordingly. I'll take us through season registration. We'll share some important links. These are all just, feel free to bookmark these. These are really easy and ones that you're going to continue to utilize frequently throughout a season, but the season registration page where you can find all this season registration information, our athlete application bookmarks, so you can know where to direct people when they need to update that, and the help desk, the Class A, where they can complete that for unified partners and coaches, and then our competitions page, which Susan will walk you through a little bit later. Young athletes, did want to share a snapshot. Mandy and Ashton are not able to join today's call, but our young athletes program is available to children, both individuals with and without intellectual disabilities from ages 4 to 7, varying skills and abilities. This is non-competitive and it's more developmental. So like introduction to sport, development of gross motor skills, and base understanding around sport concepts and developing the social engagements. This is a really good opportunity for many of you. If you are interested, we are trying to streamline our adult teams with our young athlete teams and have them practice around similar times so that we create a pipeline of opportunity for our young athletes who are aging out of our 4 to 7 young athletes program and have a natural transition into a team that fits them, that they're already familiar with, that they're already connected with, and know the coaches in the community that's involved. So if you are interested in having a young athletes program be affiliated with your teams, please let me or your regional manager know. We'd happily have those conversations with Mandy and Ashton as well. And now I'm going to stop talking for a little bit and I'm going to give it over to Michelle, who is going to walk us through some general information around expectations and how you guys can prepare for the season and then conduct your expectations during the season as well. So Michelle, take it from here.
All right, you guys, I know we have said a lot. You have listened to a lot so far. We haven't even gone into the specifics of summer just yet, but I just want to say before I go into this does not need to be memorized. You do not need to know the whole process overnight. We are also learning our routine, so you can print this, you can have a little cheat sheet to reference, you can call your regional manager if you're having trouble with this. I think it's important to take a little bit of stress off of you right now and just know that this is why we put this PowerPoint together so that you can reference this on your own once we share that out, okay? All right, so preseason expectations. 3 to 4 months before your first practice, coaches will complete the seasonal registration form for their team. This is a newer process. We kind of went over a little bit about what that is. This is where you can let us know if you need some additional coaching support, whether that be to help with all of this online stuff that you're learning about, to get all of the correct paperwork in, or maybe it's a sport assistant coach, a head coach, or a coordinator who can help manage maybe all of your teams throughout all of those seasons. So this is the time where you can jot that down, let us know so we can go on the search for you, as well as, have you recruit, but we want to make sure that your team is well taken care of. This is where you can share your roster availability for additional athletes and unified partners. So if you have a new soccer team and you need to grow it so that you can compete against another soccer team rather than just do skills, this is where you can say, we have spots for 5 more athletes and 3 more unified partners. Or if you just want multiple teams within that same sport and you're trying to grow it, that's how we know. We have you guys share your practice details if available. I know 3 to 4 months ahead of time is a lot to ask for, but knowing that we're going to be asking for this might push you to start thinking about that. So once you have those details lined up, you can put those in that shared roster where your regional manager can see it. You can see it, and that way we're all in the same loop. The coach shares the seasonal registration link with athletes and unified partners so that they know it's time to register for your team. Again, if they don't have access to a computer or if they just don't want to go online to register, you have that capability, all of that, to go ahead and jot what you know about them in there. Just make sure to put their date of birth so we know who's who. We've got a lot of Mark Smiths out there, so just make sure we know which Mark we're talking about. Coach begins to secure the facility for practice. Sometimes you guys might need help with that. Reach out to your regional manager to see if we can assist. A lot of times those facilities do require some sort of certificate of insurance where the regional managers can help make sure that everyone has what they need so that you guys can practice safely at your facility. Next slide, please. There we go. All right. So 4 to 6 weeks before your first practice, the team roster has been sent to the coach for the review. So you guys are going through, you're looking at, who you recognize, who maybe you don't recognize, and start looking at those Class A applications for your unified partners and your coaches, making sure that they're all good to go, as well as your athlete applications. Coach edits, this is the time where you're going to start going in there and maybe updating more information about Johnny's phone number that you didn't have before, or Johnny's email that you didn't have before. So that way, again, we can send things to them so that we're kind of helping you with your communication to your team. And if you guys can try to bookmark the roster, what that means is you're going to go on like your search engine, and I think it's like a star. You can choose that and it'll come up onto your search engine where it's easily accessible, so you don't have to, copy and paste the link into the search engine every time. If you don't know how to do that, copying and pasting also works. So you're fine to do that too. Team placement information is sent to athletes and families, connecting athletes and families with the coach via email. So this is where we're starting to make sure that everyone can attend your practice at this location at this time. We might see some athletes go to a different team based on your practice information so that works out for them better. So this is the time where we can do that. We host a mandatory preseason webinar for coaches. That's what we're doing right now. So we are on schedule, which is good. And then we have communication season updates. So that means, if there's any MedFests in your area that athletes can attend to update their athlete application and their medical form. This is when we start to talk about that. And then, of course, if they don't have that information there, or if we don't have that resource there, at least they know to go to the doctor and start making those appointments so that, come the deadline, they're ready to go and they can compete. 2 to 4 weeks before your first practice, the coach secures team uniforms and equipment if they don't already have it. If you are a brand new team and you need this information and you need this equipment and uniforms, please reach out to your regional manager. We can help get those shipped. We can help with expenses and things of those barriers that you might come across. And then 1 week before the first practice, you're communicating any updates on the season or the practice to your team. All right, next slide. In-season expectations, 8 weeks prior to state competition. So you're submitting any new roster additions to your regional manager to receive their athlete application or Class A needs. Coach provides continuous support and reminders for athletes and partners. So this is basically just reminding you that, yes, we are communicating with your team, but you guys also need to be, because things fall through the cracks. And as long as we can, communicate double, that's great. But we know that you guys are communicating to them more often. You see them face to face. So just make sure that you have the information you need to relay to those specific individuals, as well as the team as a whole. And that also includes COVID paperwork. So just make sure you guys are on top of that. Collect those birth dates that we need and contact information. This is a good time to start looking at those one-pager medicals that we just introduced. Adrian went over those a little bit while ago. Again, these are not required, but it definitely lessens your binder just to have those one-page emergency contacts. And this is a good time to do that. And then 4 to 5 weeks prior to state and regional competitions, you're going to begin conducting athlete assessments and drills. So that's basically you're starting to do all the things that sport requires. Entry forms will be due to the director of competitions and your regional manager 2 to 3 weeks prior to the regional competition. Stick to that deadline, because then that way we have an organized event. Any questions that you have can be answered in a timely manner, and everyone can compete that we know can. And then those who don't get that in, they know that they can't attend. So it's not, an awkward situation saying, I'm so sorry, we don't have what we need and you can't compete. Again, be sure to include birthdays, the role, and then of course, let's see, you must attend a regional in order to be eligible for state. So that's why it's so important to get all of this done in a reasonable amount of time. Postseason notes, 1 to 2 weeks after your state competition, results will be sent to the coach and posted to the competitions page on the SOCO website. Post-event surveys can be sent to coaches. We like to hear about feedback, what worked, what didn't. And then of course our champion highlight show premieres on Facebook Live and YouTube. The one thing that's not on here that I would also just like to address is to make sure you're getting your in-kind forms done. These are all the donations that you guys receive. We want to make sure we're getting all that stuff in. So that's it for me, I believe.
Yep.
Adrian?
Yep, thanks, Michelle. That concludes the first half of our call, and I will kick it over to Susan, who's going to talk about all the fun around sports and our competitions. Susan, you're up.
All right, awesome. Thank you. We are super excited to be back for the summer season again. A quick update on the summer season. It is going to look a little different than past summer seasons in that we only will be having 2 weekends where we have competitions. It's not really 2 events, as you can see, they're all listed here. But we are going to be spending the weekend of August 13th, 14th, and 15th. No, that's a Monday, not the weekend, but we're going to be spending that weekend out in Grand Junction running the Western Slope Summer Classic that's presented by Canvas Credit Union. So as you can see, we've got a few different events taking place at different locations on those days. But that event is going to take place that weekend. And then the following weekend, August 20th and 21st, will be the Front Range Summer Classic presented by Delta Dental. At the Air Force Academy on Saturday, we'll have bocce, cycling, and tennis. And then on Sunday, we'll be having softball and golf at different locations. As you can see down there, I've listed the location and the address. All entries are going to be due July 18th. That will include everyone's first and last name. That'll include birth dates. That'll include events they're in, as well as scores. Even if the scores are a guesstimate at this point, us having scores makes everything just a little bit easier on our end to be able to start to coordinate the schedules, et cetera. And I know everyone wants to get that stuff as soon as possible, but sometimes when we're waiting on entries a week before an event, it's really hard for us to get through those pieces. So I think this will give us enough time. Hopefully you guys will have enough practices under your belt to have a pretty good idea of who will be doing what, as well as sometimes you can start recording. We are instituting a new paperwork deadline. As you can see for the event in Grand Junction, that'll be August 5th. So on August 5th, whatever is not turned in for athletes, for coaches, or for unified partners, we will no longer accept, and those athletes will not be able to attend. That is, we've had our data team and some of our folks bending over a little bit backwards to try to make sure everything's in and checking, things up to the very last minute, it's just a little bit challenging, in addition to the fact that we're not really getting through all the processes as well as we would like them to be able to capture all the information that we need for the safety of everybody as well. And then for the Front Range event, August 12th is going to be that deadline. So it's a week before. Again, by that day, if you don't have things turned in, we will be informing you early the following week of who is scratched and who will not be entered into the event as well. Okay. You can also submit all entries to the new email address. It'll be entries@specialolympicsco.com. So you don't have to remember who you're sending it to and which people you need to put on it. Just send everything to that and we'll all have access to be able to look at that. Okay.
One thing I do want to emphasize is that entry deadline date of July 18th. We're not going to be accepting late entries anymore. If you are not able to meet that July 18th date, please notify us as early as possible. That is a hard deadline. We will need all entries, as Susan described, by that July 18th date. Also, I misspoke earlier about our masking policy. Masks are optional for both outdoor and indoor participation. So they are not required indoors. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And moving on. Hopefully. There we go.
Perfect. All right, Adrian, if you want to go ahead and hop over to the competition page, this is kind of your one stop shop for everything you guys need. Excuse me, we'll kind of talk through what it looks like. Perfect. Awesome. So we are currently still in our spring season. So you'll see that there's still information on the spring season and summer games up here. Once summer games is finished, this won't be up here any longer and the summer season will be right up. But Adrian, if you want to scroll down, can get an idea. You can get a sneak peek at the summer season logo. Keep scrolling, sorry. So we've got our summer season logo and then some information on Summer Classic taking place. All of our events are listed up here. And then you can see on the opposite side of that, we do have all of our sports listed. Currently the entry forms aren't up there because I did not update them all the way. But there will be a little plus sign right here and it will show you all the entry forms that we're going to go to. So similar to what it's going to look like up here, you'll have the buttons of everything that you need in order to know all the rules for the event and submit everything that you need to for that event as well. Okay. And then we'll have all the COVID forms on that in that section as well. Those will all be the pieces that you would need. So again, kind of just that one-stop spot for you to go ahead and get the rules, the entry forms, any other information as well. So we're just going to jump right into it with our first sport in the summer season, which is bocce. We went through earlier this week, we went through all the sports and we put our heads together and tried to decide kind of which items we need to pull out of the sport. So we went through all the rules and just to talk through some of these things. So I'm not going to read all these pieces word for word on here. These again are just highlights. This by no means is every rule on here. This is just a few things that have come up in the past that we wanted to cover. So for bocce, when you are doing the measurements at the beginning to turn in your measurement total for the entry deadline on July 18th, you're going to measure from the top of each ball. So the top of I have it in there, Adrian. It's in the slideshow. You're sharing your screen. So you'll measure from the top center of the ball, of the colored ball that you have, as well as to the Polina. So you'll do that for each measurement for the divisioning, and then that's what we'll do at the competition as well. Okay. When you're starting a game, you'll have someone call heads or tails. The winner of the coin toss receives the Polina. The Polina is the little white ball. And I guess just a general quick tip, the goal of bocce is to get as many of your either blue or green or red, whichever color balls you have, as close to that white ball Polina as possible. And as many as you get, that's how many points you end up getting. So to start the game, each individual, whoever gets a Polina has a 3-attempt rule. They have to throw the Polina from behind the foul line where they are, which is the 10-foot line. It has to go beyond the half line and before the opposite end of that 10-foot line again. So it just needs to land in that center. If they do not do that within those 3 attempts, the opponent has one chance to do that. And if that is unsuccessful, the referee will place the Polina in the middle of the court at the very far end of the court. So the center of that far line, the opposite end foul line will be where the ball will be placed. Okay. And then just whoever threw the Polina the first time, even if they didn't get it where it was supposed to go, they still have advantage by being able to deliver the first ball. Okay. Next slide. So the Polina and bocce ball will need to be delivered in an underhand motion, and you can use one or two hands to do that. If the Polina is knocked outside of the courts that we use, it will be considered a dead ball. If it lands on the courts we're using, that's considered, as well as any other balls, that's considered in play still. Okay. We do also offer lead up and ramp competition. So both of those are offered in a half court option. So it takes place on that regular court. We just use half of it. The athletes don't switch sides back and forth as in the traditional game. So that is an option as well. And that's great for the athletes who maybe aren't just quite ready to get that Polina or those balls past that half line. And rather than, losing 12-0, this gives them an opportunity to be able to do that. Coaching is not allowed at the event. Athletes can be disqualified if you are coaching them during the event, and coaches should always remain at the end of the court. I want to say in the front range, we kind of have a border around all the courts that we ask coaches to stay out of as well. Okay. This is I'm going to jump into a little bit of entry form. So this is the Class A/coach roster that is going to be integrated into all the entry forms this season for you. So every entry form you open, this is the first page you're going to see. As a reminder, this is the coach roster. So you're going to list coaches on here, just coaches, not unified partners, not athletes, just coaches. So if you've got 4 coaches, their names are going to go on here and this form is done. Again, with the birth dates, it's super important for us to have that. As I think it was Elizabeth mentioned, sometimes there's 2 John Smiths and we don't know which one to pick. Additionally, if we don't have that information, we're not going to enter them into our system, and they might get lost in the shuffle. So we really need those date of births to be able to enter them into our system, to get them on the roster, to be able to have name tags at the events, to be an official coach as well. Okay. Here are our Bocce entry forms. We actually have 3 different ones. We have a singles one, a doubles one, and a team one. So up at the top, you're just going to fill out your region. We'll need a contact number, what your team is, your coach name, and then any emails, anyone that you would like to receive the emails. Once we get all these entries, we send out rosters for review. We send out the paperwork information. We send out all those pieces. Any coaches that you want on your team to receive that, please put them in here. This is the form that we'll use to be able to pull that stuff to be able to make that mailing list. Okay. So you're simply just going to enter athlete's name, gender, date of birth, if they are in lead up, if they need a ramp, and then whatever their qualification score is as well, and if they're using a wheelchair. Okay. That is it for singles. Doubles is pretty similar, except you are going to put their total score. As you can see, there's 2 lines for each team. So you'll put their individual score on there, and then we'll work to total that up as well. Okay. And then just noting if they're in an additional event as well, whether if they're on team, they can also be in doubles. So we allow them to pick 2 events. If they're in singles, they can also be in doubles or on a team as well. Typically we run the day where singles takes place in the morning and then team and doubles takes place in the afternoon. So I would suggest if you want athletes to participate in more than 1 event, that's probably the best way to do it. Put them in singles in the morning, and then in the afternoon, they can be in doubles or teams. On this one, you'll see that we are looking for a total score here of the team. So you can go ahead and enter that in there as well. Okay. Any Bocce questions? Great. Moving on to cycling. We offer events ranging from the 250 meters to 25K races. And we offer races in the following disciplines. So we offer time trial races, which is where we let one athlete go and then we give a little bit of space. We send the next athlete, etc. Occasionally when we're doing that, we'll combine divisions, but that's a time trial format that we use. We do also offer unified, which is 2 different bikes, 2 different people and 2 different bikes riding together as a unified team. And then we do also offer the tandem, which is 2 bikes, 1 bike, 2 people, 1 bike. So the tandem is 2 people, 1 bike. The unified is 2 people on a bike. The unified is not someone running alongside an athlete that is going to be cycling. Those would be, if you have those kinds of situations, I would say reach out to the sports and competition team to figure out what best events we can put those athletes in. If you have questions on approved bikes, so there are a variety of approved bikes. We do approved tricycles, recumbent bikes, various things like that. So if you have questions on that, please reach out to our team as well so that we can make sure we have an approved bike. We would hate for someone to be training on it and then show up at the event and then it's not one of the bikes that we would approve of. As a reminder, there's no headphones while riding. Helmets are required for coaches and athletes during warm-ups and competitions. Cyclists must keep one hand on the handlebars even at the end of the race. So once they get across the finish, so none of that 2 hands up kind of thing as they cross the finish line, they could be DQ'd for that. And then cyclists can't carry radios for communication as well. Okay. Here's the entry form. As you can see, we offer quite a few events in here. Again, we talked about the different disciplines that we do offer. So if you look under where we ask for the athlete's name, that's where we've got our 250 and 500 listed. And then everything else is the 1K, the 2.5K, the 5K, the 10K. Oh. And the 25K in all of the disciplines that I talked about. I thought you were testing me. I wasn't going to remember all of those for sure.
Sorry, I was hovering and then accidentally.
So that's kind of the gist with cycling. Again, if you don't have exact times when you're turning these entries in, that's okay. If you have a guesstimate of a time, that's better than nothing for us at this point. Okay. Any questions on cycling? Okay. Next up is golf. Again, a few pieces to pull out of here. Caddies cannot act as coaches. So basically, obviously, when a caddy's out on the course, they can do the typical caddy rules where they're assisting with, you know, what club to use and those kinds of pieces. But for your team, there needs to be someone in addition to the caddies that would act as a coach. If there is a situation to protest, caddies can't protest. So that's the main reason behind that one. A unified partner can be a coach in some of these situations. However, we might run into that same thing where if there is a protest, they may not be able to protest. But if we run into those situations, we can talk through that, okay? We want to make sure that all golf teams are going by golf etiquette, and that applies to everything, and that includes what's not limited to keeping up at the pace of play, you know, looking presentable on the golf courses, just remembering to keep your voices down, remembering all those pieces for golf. In regards to the pace of play, as a reminder, every time a team gets that 10th stroke and they don't get it in, that becomes a 10X, and the balls need to be picked up and moved and marked a 10X on the scorecard and moving on to the next group. Golf carts are only going to be allowed with a doctor's note, and any doctor's note need to be submitted with entries. We may work out a different system for submitting those, but at this point, we want to make sure that we get those by the entries. In the past, it's kind of been a little difficult to manage where we just keep getting emails after emails after emails of all the doctor's notes. So we will need those to be turned in with the entries on July 18th. We offer 5 different levels of golf. Level 1 is individual skills, where we cover short putt, long putt, chipping, the wood, iron shots, all the various shots that you would use in golf. Level 2 is an alternate shot of 9-hole, and that's typically, if you look over on the side there, there's averages that we have on there. Those are the suggested averages for being in those events, right? We don't want someone to be in level 5 individual stroke play and their score to be 180 because they're getting 10Xs on every hole. That's probably not the best event for them. And if you have questions on that and kind of where to situate certain athletes, please reach out to us, and we're happy to provide this guidance. There's even more guidance in our SOCO rules about kind of where to look at, where people are shooting, and when to move them up or down levels as well. Okay. I think the last thing on golf is that spectators on the course has become challenging for the pace of play. I remember a few years ago at state, we had about 12 golf carts sitting around one hole and waiting for our next group to come in. So this is something we are going to work with the golf courses on, and we'll provide more guidance to all of you on that as well. Trust me, I'm not saying don't go on the golf course. We're just trying to make sure we keep that pace of play going. As you guys all know, golf can drag on a little bit long. So we want to make sure that we're keeping that pace of play going to maintain the best event we possibly can for the athletes as well. Okay. This is our golf entry form. You'll see that we need to submit 3 scores. If you don't have those prior to July 18th, that's okay. You should hopefully have at least 1 or 2 at that point. And then again, we can update those as we get closer. Okay. You'll just check off which level they're in, as well as their scores. And if they've got a unified partner, you'll list that on there as well. Okay. On to softball. Softball is one of our team sports in which wheelchair and assisted devices are allowed. So please reach out to the sports and competition team in these cases. We will work to make sure it's a safe situation for everybody involved, but it is allowed in this situation. We also, please refer to the SoCo rule interps for approved bats. No wooden bats are allowed, and it will have to say ASA softball approved on the bat. So double check all your bats that you have. If you need assistance on finding bats, let us know and we can work with you to do that as well. Just as a reminder, we do use a strike bat for all games. If you're practicing and you don't have any of those, let us know. We have some of those we can let you use. We also use the safety first base and the safety home plate. None of these are new. We've done this in the past. If you're not familiar with what those are, they are in the rules. And again, we do have some that we can share out if you do need them. No changes can be made to the bases, pitching mound, etc. We're keeping everything where it is at this point for all levels of play. We do have an update here. We did add, so we do have that information about the 12-run lead at the end of the 5th inning, etc. We also did add that a maximum of 8 runs per inning. If a team scores 8 runs per inning, then the team switches to defense and the other team comes in to bat no matter how many outs there are. So if in the top of the 1st, Adrian's team gets 8 runs, great, they're coming in. Michelle's team is going to come up to bat, and Adrian's team is going to go play defense. Okay. We do also offer modified softball. So this is an event in which athletes can use a tee or they can have coach pitch. If you don't check that on the entry form that you're in that modified division and you show up at the tournament, pull out a tee to start batting, it's not allowed. We want to keep all the teams using tees and coach pitch together, and your attention to that detail will be very, very helpful as well. And just back to that, not the unified piece, that modified piece. It's if you have questions about it, please reach out to us so we can explain it a little bit more. It is really to set athletes up for success. So let's say I've been trying all season to hit, I come up to bat, I strike out my first at bat. I can use my tee my second at bat. Okay. It's not, I strike out at my first at bat, then we can pull the tee out so I can hit. It's still abiding by all the softball rules. There's just adaptations in place to help the athlete succeed. So as coaches, that would be up to you to determine, okay, let's let Susan get her at bat in. Okay, she struck out. Now let's let her hit on the tee, various pieces like that. Okay. On to unified softball. This is a document that I split up into a couple of slides here. I am not going to read through everything. I'm just going to highlight on some points, but this is probably one of our only sports that has separate rules for our traditional all athlete teams and our unified teams. Brenda, I just saw your note on there. They will not be 1.5 hour slots. That is at this point, they'll probably be closer to like 1 hour and 15 minutes. That's why we added that maximum 8-run rule as well. Okay, so this is all unified softball. So the roster should be the same number of athletes and partners, and there should never be more partners than athletes on the team. During the competition, the lineup shall never exceed an equal number of athletes and partners at any time, okay? A team may play with an uneven number of athletes as long as there are more athletes, right? So if you're starting with 5v5 and one of your partners gets hurt and you have a 6th athlete you can put in, totally fine. If you're starting with 5 athletes and 5 partners and you have a partner that gets hurt or an athlete that gets hurt and you're going to put in a 6th partner, that doesn't work. So just keeping that in mind when you're making your rosters as well, to have those extra athletes in case you do need to fill that. Okay. Within the 10 players, the following position requirements: you have to have 2 athletes and 2 partners in the infield and outfield, and then 1 athlete and 1 partner as pitcher or catcher. So if you've got an athlete pitching, you can have a partner catching or vice versa on that. Okay. And then if a team is shorthanded, and then if a team is shorthanded, it states what to do in that situation as well. again, the gist is just making sure you never have more athletes than partners in those positions, in those roles. Okay.
Just trying to keep you on your toes, Susan.
It's helping. For unified competition, athlete and partners will alternate in the batting order. Lists on there what to do. If you're playing short-handed and the team dropped a partner, and out is taken when the lineup reaches that partner's place in the batting order. Okay. And then again, with this, you need to have a coach in addition to all the unified partners that are and athletes that are out on the field. There is a home run rule, and this is only in unified. There is a limit of 2 for each game, per team. Sorry. So if I come up to bat and hit a home run, and my teammate comes up to bat after me and hits a home run, it's my 2 home runs for the entire game. And another teammate comes up and hits a 3rd home run, that's an automatic out. So anything over that 2 home run total per game is an out. You play your first game, you're done with that. That resets on the second game as well. Okay. And then it doesn't matter who hits that. If it's athletes that hit both of them, that's just, it's the same rule across there. And then number 6 is bolded because I think it's probably the most important rule to cover, and just making sure that all players on the roster have a meaningful role with the team, and making sure that in the games, the athletes and partners are working together, right? The athletes, and I think we've seen it in a lot of different situations. The partners are letting the athletes field the ball when it's coming to them. You guys are working in the season to make sure the athletes are being a part of those plays and of those kinds of elements as well. And that's not only while batting, but also in the field. Okay. And here's a softball entry form. Pretty straightforward. We just need athlete name, partner, gender, date of birth, and then their overall rating. We rate our softball teams levels 1 to 4, 1 being the highest and 4 being the lowest. And you'll see a document. We'll send a document that'll say level 1, this is what it's going to look like, all the way down to level 4, and what you can be expecting, what you could be looking for. You'll rate each player based on that 1 to 4 scale, and then you'll rate your team as well based on that 1 to 4 scale. Okay. In addition to that, we also offer softball skills. You can go to the next slide, Adrian. We also offer softball skills. This includes batting, base running, fielding, throwing. It just takes all the aspects of skills and puts it together. This is great for maybe some little guys who might not be ready to be on the field yet, or some older folks who prefer, or kind of some middle of the road individuals who maybe just don't even want to play on the team, or they love softball so much, but there's only 2, 3 of them on their team, so they can't play on a team. So this is a great way to get them involved playing softball as well. And last but not least, our last summer sport is tennis. Special Olympics North America has made a great video for the ITN assessments. So I would highly encourage all tennis coaches to click on this link and watch this video before doing the assessments. It's a lot to read through. When you sit down to read through all those assessments, it's a lot, and it's a lot of trying to figure out where to put everything. The videos show how to do all of it. They're fantastic. It shows you, where to put the point totals, where to serve it for, or where to feed it from. It goes through and covers all of that as well. We offer 5 different levels. Level 1 is our skills. Level 2 is our short court, and those are larger red foam balls, and that takes place in the service box area. If you're doing skills, you can also do short court. We do orange ball, which is a ball that bounces a little bit slower, and that's also in a small, a little bit of a shorter court. We do a green dot ball, which has a little bit of a different bounce on the regular court. And then we also offer level 5, which is the regular ball on the tennis court. Some exciting news for our tennis teams. We do have a slot for a female athlete and a female unified partner to attend the 2023 World Games in Berlin. These athletes must be registered to participate in the state tournament and available through the dates of the World Games in Berlin as well. Apparently we're hosting tennis in February. I think I was thinking about the snow a little bit too much. So those dates should be August, my bad. So if you have questions on that, keep your eyes open for some more information coming out on that. That would be fantastic.
One thing to note on the ITN assessments, if you are a tennis coach, you should have received those links already from your regional managers. If you haven't, please let us know and we can resend that to you.
Awesome. And then the last form we've got are the tennis entry forms. This looks pretty similar to the golf form. You will be putting in their total score number here, the numbers you got from the assessment in the singles, and if they're playing doubles in there, as well as listing their unified partner. That top point up there would be the total points if they are doing skills. Okay. Any questions on any of that? Okay.
Cool. I'll take it from
There was
here.
a softball question about the home run rule. Is it 2 over the fence or home run with in the field home runs that count towards the 2?
Let me double check on that. I've got it pulled up right now and I'm going to go through and find the exact wording of it to make sure I don't misquote it. So I will hop back on and update or put it in the chat as well.
While you do that, we'll talk about our Athlete Leadership University. For those of you who are new to it, Athlete Leadership Program is holding a fall semester at the University of Denver. This is an opportunity for athletes who are looking to be more exposed and take a first-hand classes for the first time in athlete leadership to join us. They'll learn life skills along other athlete leaders and be paired with a mentor. If you are interested in becoming a mentor, please let us know. Please let your regional manager know. We'd be happy to connect you with Stephanie, who oversees our athlete leadership program. We are always looking for mentors who can help support our athletes through their athlete leadership experience and then support them in the creation of their capstone projects. In fall of 2022, so this fall will include a coaching major for the first time. So opportunity for athletes who are interested in becoming coaches to run through this curriculum and be exposed to that. Move on. Susan, you just jump in when you're ready.
Yeah, it looks like it's stated that it's over the fence home runs. So it's a limit of over the fence home runs will be used in the unified division, and that's 2. So if it's in the park home runs, that still works.
Cool. Jenna, are you on the call?
I am.
Okay, great. Hand it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Adrian. So yeah, we have some fun, healthy athletes things coming up in August. So we will have 2 MedFest opportunities in August. One will be August 6th at Rocky Vista University. So that is down in Parker. That'll be from 8 a.m. until noon. And so if you have any athletes that need to get signed up for that, the sign up link is there on the screen. And then it's also, you can find it on our website as well. And then we have another one happening the following weekend on August 14th. And this is going to be at Rocky Mountain Hospital for Children. If you don't know where that is, it's in Denver off of High Street. So kind of like downtown Denver area-ish. And that one will be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. That sign up link is a little bit longer. I didn't get a chance to make a shortened one yet. And that should be up on our website as well. So we have those 2 opportunities. I know they're more in the Denver area, one more South Denver, one kind of closer to Northern Denver area. So hopefully those maybe in the Northeast and Southeast can maybe kind of come to some of those a little bit. I'm also working on getting them in the other regions. Western Slope, you guys will have to hang tight for a little bit. Yours isn't until December 10th, but we do have one for you guys. So I'm not forgetting about you. And So yeah, those are opportunities to get those physicals completed. So your athletes are ready to go and up to date. And then for other screenings, August 20th at the Front Range Summer Classic, we are going to have both Strong Minds and Fit Feet happening. So depending on where you're at the venue, you may be closer to one of those than the other because we're going to try and spread them out a little bit. And the tentative time is on there as well. And then at softball on the 21st of August, we will have performance stations happening. So we will not have a screening occurring, but we are going to do our performance stations. So we will have all 5 of those set up. So make sure you bring your athletes over to those. They have great education, great things to take home to continue doing the activities that the athletes learn at each of those. And Western Slope, I want to let you know, I'm not forgetting about you guys out there. I know you also have your summer classic, but I do not have anything on here because I just don't have anything confirmed yet. I have some ideas in the works. I just don't have confirmation from the clinical directors. So I didn't want to get your hopes up. But when something gets scheduled, and hopefully it will, we'll make sure that you guys are aware of that and know what we're offering for you guys out there. So that's kind of what we have coming up here in August.
I just want to reinforce the MedFests that are going to be available for any of you coaches as you have families or athletes who are missing their athlete applications or in need of a physical exam. These are 2 great opportunities to do that. They're free of charge and conducted by a clinical director. And we have on-site support that can help in completing those athlete applications with those athletes. So if you have anybody who is looking for additional help or is having difficulties finding opportunities to get in front of a doctor between now and state, I would encourage them to attend one of these. This would be a great opportunity for them. We'll move on. Back to you, Jenna.
And then we're always looking for more fitness captains. Those of you who have been on these calls with me before have heard me talk about the fitness captains. I've seen some coaches on the call too who have fitness captains. But if you're looking for like an athlete to help lead things in your practices, this is kind of the route to go. If you have an athlete on your team who's really kind of standing out as a leader, this is also a great opportunity for them to utilize those leadership skills. And so this is just our fitness captain program, just looking for athletes who are positive leaders, want to be involved more in fitness, have a passion about fitness. This is definitely for them. They can lead the warm-ups for your teams at the start of practice, and they can do the stretches for your team after practice, and also just encourage their fellow athletes to be active outside of practice and kind of doing more. So Adrian, if you want to go to the next slide, if you have an athlete in mind, please nominate them. You just have to send an email to SoCo Fitness Captain at SpecialOlympicsCO.org. So it's kind of a longer one, but if you just remember SoCo Fitness Captain, the rest will come to you because all of our emails have the same ending. And then we just ask for athlete's name, contact information, what teams they're on, what sports they play, and why are you nominating them? You know, we want to know why this athlete is so awesome, because we know you think they are, but we may not know who they are. So we'd love to know a little bit about them. We also ask to let the athlete know you nominated them and that someone will be reaching out to them. So it doesn't come as this who are you? Or what is this kind of surprise? So that way they kind of know it's coming. And my coworker, Casey, she's the one who runs those trainings. And she's hoping to run at least a couple this summer. So get your athletes nominated so that they can get trained and start leading your teams.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenna. That concludes our presentation and today's call. So now is an opportunity for anybody who has questions to ask away. We will remain on the call for a handful of minutes and happy to answer any questions that you may have. So feel free to throw those in on the chat or unmute and direct them to us as well. Otherwise, if you have no other questions, you're free to go. And thank you all for attending. Appreciate your time.